Hello everyone, and welcome back to another edition of the JTISREBORN movie reviews. It's been quite a while since I've done one of these things. I think the last one I talked about was Batman vs. Robin, so I figured I'd pick right up where I last left off, as we continue our journey through the DCAMU with a review on the fifth entry within this universe, Batman, Bad Blood.
Baby, now we've got bad blood.
No, I said Bad Blood, not Bat Blood. No, wait, stop right there. Turn that shit off before it gets out of control. I don't want this video to get flagged for copyright, especially over Taylor Swift and her mid-tier music. Oh shit. No, I didn't mean it. It was just a joke. I'm okay. Word of advice to you all? Never piss off the Swifties. They are insane. Anyways, Batman, Bad Blood. Batman Bad Blood was released in 2016, only a year after the release of Batman vs. Robin. It was once again directed by Jay Oliva and written by J.M. Demetis, the same creative team behind the previous film. The plot this time around focuses on the disappearance of Batman, and with Bruce gone, Dick and Damian have to work together as Batman and Robin to try and figure out why he disappeared. Along the way, they are joined by a mysterious new vigilante known as Batwoman, who was the last person to see Bruce alive before he disappeared, and they also end up teaming up with the character of Batwing along the way as well. So on the one hand, with this movie, I'm getting the things I've always wanted to see. I get to see my favorite dynamic duo, Dick and Damian, teaming up together as Batman and Robin. But on the other hand, the decision-making behind this film is so batshit crazy and feels very inconsistent with everything that's happened in this universe so far that it just leaves me scratching my head by the end of it. I guess the only thing left to do now is to go through what happens in this movie and talk about what I like and what I don't like about this film. As the movie begins, we see Batwoman and Batman facing off against some various low-level villains, including Firefly, Killer Moth, Tusk, Electrocutioner, and Onyx. No, not the Pokemon, but wouldn't that have been interesting? Anyways, just when the fight seems to be going their way, a new villain known as the Heretic arrives. During the fight, he detonates some explosives, so Batman sends Batwoman flying out the window to save her life, while he seemingly dies in the explosion. Soon, a few weeks pass since Batman has gone missing, and so Alfred sends out an emergency signal to Dick Grayson, asking him to return back to Gotham, but not before he gets cockblocked while on the phone with Starfire. A scene which, I'll admit, is pretty funny. Once Dick returns to Gotham, he's kind of forced into putting on the Batsuit, because without Batman, the criminals in Gotham become way more active, and that causes a lot of problems for the people of Gotham. It isn't something he necessarily wants to do. In fact, he hates having to do it, given that he left Gotham in the first place to try to escape Bruce's shadow, but he understands why he needs to do it. This is the total opposite of Damian, who wants nothing more than to become Batman, which he sees as his birthright. Speaking of Damian, it is also at this time where we see Damian returning home from his time at the monastery he went to at the end of Batman vs. Robin. When he comes back, he's a little bit more level-headed this time around than he was previously. He still has a bit of sass to him, but is way more toned down compared to what we saw in the previous films. I guess that time spent with the monks really did help him out, at least for this film, because in the next film he starts out as a bit brattier than he is in here. I do like to theorize that he isn't necessarily as angsty this time around as he was in the last film, because instead of working alongside Bruce in this film, he spends most of his time working alongside Dick Grayson. I mentioned this earlier on, but my favorite dynamic duo from the comics is actually when Dick Grayson was Batman and Damian Wayne was his Robin. What I love most about Dick and Damian's dynamic is it kind of flips the whole Batman and Robin thing on its head. Batman is typically more dark and broody, while Robin is more lighthearted. When Dick is Batman, he acts a bit more lighthearted, while Damian is a lot more like his father. There is something really special about those two as a dynamic duo. With Bruce gone and Damian left without his dad, Dick was kind of forced to step up and take care of this kid who really needed it. I also like how it mirrors when Bruce took Dick in as a kid, and now Dick is having to do the same thing for Damian.
Again, it's like poetry, so if they rhyme.
Although for Dick, it was a lot more challenging given Damian's much tougher upbringing. Truth be told, I actually kind of think that Dick Grayson was the best father figure that Damian ever had in his life. In fact, even when Bruce does return in the comics, there is a part of Dick that really wanted to adopt Damian, but it never came to be. Although, I kind of want to see what that could have been like. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of great stuff out there that perfectly showcases the dynamic between Bruce and Damian as Batman and Robin. I liked a lot of the stuff in the last movie, plus the best run of the New 52 was this. Batman and Robin by Peter J. Tomasi, who also signed this book for me when I met the guy, so that's pretty cool too. This book does a great job showcasing the dynamic between Bruce and Damian. It's also quite emotional, so if you haven't had the chance to pick it up, I recommend doing so and giving it a read. Plus, you can do some pretty sick curls with it too. Yeah, let's get the other arm. Lightweight, baby. Lightweight. Yeah.
So, with all that said, how does the film adapt that dynamic? Well, given the storyline of this film and the time constraints, it doesn't quite nail it as much as the comics did. But that doesn't mean it is bad. Given what we saw in Son of Batman as well as Batman vs. Robin, you really couldn't develop their storyline the same way as their comic book counterparts. Damian is a lot more mature and toned down at this point compared to his comic book counterpart was when Dick became Batman. Plus, in this film, Dick isn't Batman for very long until Bruce is brought back into the picture, so they aren't really given as much time to bond with one another like they were when they were the dynamic duo in the comics. However, they still play off each other quite well. There's a bit of humor involved with it, the way Damian's insecurities about not being given the Batman mantle are showcased while Dick outright rejects wanting to be Batman. It's all here.
Plus, I just can't help but smile whenever I see my favorite dynamic duo on screen together. I know I'm a little biased, but I just can't help myself.
After Dick and Damian begin their team up, they end up being followed by Batwoman, who deduces that it is Nightwing in the Batsuit. She then reveals to them about the last time she saw Batman alive before going off in her own direction. Dick and Damian continue their investigation to the disappearance when they get a distress signal at the vault for Wayne Tech, where the character of Luke Fox is having a conversation with his father, Lucius, where they end up being attacked by the Heretic and his gang of villains who are trying to steal some specialized tech for their evil plans. In the chaos, Lucius gets stabbed, but before Heretic could finish off the job of killing them, Dick and Damian show up to save the day. However, things don't go so well for them as Damian nearly gets killed by the Electrocutioner. However, he is saved by the Heretic, who ends up killing the Electrocutioner in the process, before leaving with the stolen technology. Honestly, up to this point in the movie, things are going okay. We got some exciting action, a bit of an interesting story hook with Batman missing and this new villain coming in and kicking ass while also trying to protect Damian in the process. However, things start to take a bit of a turn for the insane when it is revealed that Talia al Ghul is the real mastermind behind this whole thing. You see, she was the one who sent Heretic to kidnap Batman and with the help of Mad Hatter tries to brainwash him.
Alright, brace yourselves, because I've got some shit to say about this one.
Easily the worst thing about this movie is the writing and characterization for the character of Talia al Ghul. I was already having some issues in Son of Batman with Talia's characterization where she had the whole drugging of Batman plot thing going on. A terrible story idea that is a complete slap in the face to her character as well as the real genuine love her and Bruce have showcased one another before. Things don't get any better this time around as her characterization in this movie is just awful and does not match up with what we've already established within this universe. What the hell happened for her to turn this way? There's no explanation for why she's all of a sudden this 100% evil super psycho bitch. This is the same woman who in Son of Batman, mind you, took a bullet for her son, but in this movie we're led to believe that she never gave a shit. I'm sorry, but why? Was it the Lazarus Pit that affected her this way? I don't know. The movie doesn't tell us that. I feel like we're missing a huge story explanation for why she changed so much in between films. She acts like she never cared at all. Which is bullshit, because if she didn't care at all, then why go through all that trouble of protecting Damian and Son of Batman? That movie wouldn't have happened if she never gave a shit in the first fucking place.
It doesn't make any fucking sense!
After the whole vault incident, Damian is forced to recover at home while Dick goes out to do some investigating. It also reveals to Kate who he is and they decide to work together on this. However, the moment is cut short as Damian gets kidnapped by the Heretic while he is in the Batcave. Geez, they really need better security at this point, don't they? So Damian is brought to where Bruce is being kept at which point the Heretic reveals to Damian his true identity and that he's in fact an older clone of Damian.
What?
The Heretic reveals to Damian that he intends to take his memories to feel more like a real person. However, this doesn't go over so well with Talia, who decides to kill him for defying her orders. It is pretty disappointing that Heretic is dispatched so quickly in this movie. I feel like there was a lot more worth exploring with this character, but this movie just cast him aside so we can get crazy Talia al Ghul as the main mastermind behind it all. It kind of reminds me of The Dark Knight Rises when Bane, who was the main heavy hitter, start the film. Although later on is revealed to be nothing more than a pawn for Talia, it kind of undermines the character entirely, and having him thrown aside in the climax, it just doesn't work for me. Once the Heretic is out of the picture, Dick and Kate manage to track down their location and arrive at the compound where they have to face off against a group of nuns wielding machine guns and katanas, or as Dick likes to call them, nunjas.
Okay. That is pretty awesome. Also, I'm gonna need a movie made about nunjas ASAP.
Alright, so Talia leaves Bruce and Damian where they're at so she can come back later on in the film to enact the rest of her evil plan. Kate and Dick end up in a bit of a difficult spot. However, Luke Fox arrives in this fancy new tech suit of armor to save them both. Now going by the name of Batwing, the three of them manage to rescue Bruce and Damian, although Bruce acts like a real asshole about being saved. No thank you or anything. After returning home, a week passes by and Bruce has seemingly recovered, although he is still a bit of a douche and still doesn't want Kate and Luke involved in this stuff. He's still a little mad about Kate and Luke finding out about their identities, plus his mind was messed with a bit. So Bruce goes to this tech summit thingy He is running where a bunch of these world leaders are at, and surprise, Talia and the League of Shadows show up. Their plan is to brainwash all these various world leaders using the stolen tech and place their influence across the world. They manage to get control of almost everyone at the summit, including Bruce, who has actually been under their influence since he was at the compound. Although, I wonder what her plan would have been had Bruce been killed, seeing as how he nearly died at the compound thanks to the League, and probably would have been had Batwing not come in to save him. So with everyone compromised, it's up to Damian, Kate, Luke, and Dick to come in to save the day. When they arrive at the Watchtower, that's when all the fighting happens. We get Nightwing versus Brainwashed Batman, Batwing versus Firefly, Damian versus Mammoth, Kate versus Talia.
And hey, even Alfred gets involved on the fighting.
Bloody hell.
Did I just see the Mad Hatter's head fucking explode?
Okay, that was legit pretty awesome, and probably my favorite part of this entire movie. Anyway, so the League gets defeated, Bruce is able to break free of the mind-controlled brainwashing, Talia then flees the scene in her flying vehicle, only to be attacked by Onyx, no, not the Pokemon, who I guess is seeking revenge over Heretic's death. There's a bit of a blink and you'll miss sort of moment where Onyx reacts to Heretic getting slapped earlier on in the film, but really other than that, there really isn't anything else to go off of. During their little fight, the ship is destroyed and Talia is seemingly killed off, never to be seen again in any of these movies. We don't get much of a reaction from Damian. This should be a huge emotional moment for him, but the film leaves us with absolutely nothing. Bruce ends up having a heart-to-heart talk with him, but we never actually get to hear what they say to each other. Given how much of Damian's journey we followed through these films, we should be able to see the scene and hear what Bruce has to say. Damian just lost his mom. I know she was the main villain in this movie, but up until the last week of her life, she was in his eyes someone who cared for him, especially based on what we saw in Son of Batman, where she took a bullet for him.
Goodbye, boy.
Run, Damian!
Look at that! An actual reaction, a look of concern, you hear the inflection in his voice, but in Batman Bad Blood, we don't get any of that. I think this movie would have benefited greatly from a scene where Damian breaks down over his mom's death. He lost his grandfather and now his mother after she went crazy. That should impact him in some way. In fact, part of what irritates me is that they don't even try to understand why Talia is all of a sudden this super fucking crazy. I'm sorry, but we deserve a proper explanation for why she's acting like this now when this wasn't how she was the last time we saw her. Maybe it is due to the Lazarus Pits. Perhaps they could try to help free her corrupted mind from the Pits' influence, but no matter what they tried to do, they couldn't save her. That actually could have made for a more emotionally impactful story. It made it all the more tragic. But nope, we get none of that. Anyways, after Bruce's off-screen conversation with Damian, the movie ends with Batman, Batwing, Nightwing, Robin, and Batwoman going to the Bat Signal and heading off to stop crime. However, at a nearby building, we see Barbara Gordon, aka Batgirl, watching from a distance as she gets ready to step into the light and join the fight.
Now, before we get into final thoughts, I want to talk about some of the characters in this film.
I already talked about Dick and Damian earlier on, and while I'm happy that they are in the movie, the storyline of them as the dynamic duo didn't quite live up to its full potential. As for Bruce, he isn't in the movie all that much, and when he is, he spends a good chunk of the time brainwashed, so there really isn't much else to say about him this time around. Batman appears in so many of these DCAMU movies that I'm okay with him taking more of a backseat this time around. When it comes to Kate Kane, aka Batwoman, voiced by Yvonne Strahovski, in this film we kind of get a rough idea of who she is as a character and why she is the way she is. The film dives a little more into her backstory. We learn a little bit about how when she was a kid, she was kidnapped alongside her sister Elizabeth and her mother. When her father attempted to rescue her, she ended up becoming the sole survivor as a result. Years later, she got kicked out of the military and became a bit of a drunk. During a night out in the town, she ends up being saved by Batman, which ultimately inspired her to become Batwoman. Using her dad's connections to the military, she built her own suit, but unlike Batman, Kate is willing to kill when absolutely necessary. I think for the most part, the movie does a pretty decent job adapting her character. And hey, I'll take this version of Kate any day over that awful Batwoman TV show on the CW.
I need you to fix his suit.
The suit is literal perfection.
It will be. When it fits him.
Shut up, bitch!
As for the other new member of the Bat family, Luke Fox, he comes from a military background and is unsure what he wants to do with his life. He has two very brief scenes with his dad and gets involved into the action rather quickly after his dad gets hurt. Wanted to use the technology his dad built to stop the villains responsible. His Batwing suit looks pretty cool and it has some neat looking gadgets to it, but I kind of wish we would have gotten a bit more with him as a character. There's one line about him coming home from one war in order to walk right into another, but that's kind of the extent of it in this film. Not much else to say about him, but I kind of want a little bit more with him in this film. I feel like Kate had a bit more to work with, at least.
Alright, now that I got that out of the way, let's talk about my final thoughts.
Batman Bad Blood is a rather bizarre entry within the DC AMU. There are some aspects of the film that I enjoy, but there are also some absolutely baffling creative choices made in this movie. I think the main highlight for me is probably the action sequences. Jay Oliva really knows how to craft interesting fight scenes. Even if there are some shortcomings at times with the story, at least you know the action scenes will be pretty good. I like how the characters each have their own different fighting styles, integrating different types of martial arts and uses of weaponry. They work within the environments, plus there is some humor to them as well. There's actually a pretty cool special feature on the Blu-ray that dives more into it, so if you get the chance to, I recommend watching it. Also, while I do think it is cool to see more of the Bat family together on screen, I'll admit that they still need to do a bit more character work with them. This movie is not very long, so they have to pack in a lot in such a short runtime, and not all of it lands, unfortunately. The worst aspect for me, of course, are some of the story choices made with Talia's character. I also feel that the movie didn't quite nail the Dick and Damian dynamic duo like it should have. Granted, I was still smiling seeing them working together, but it could have been better. Combine all these elements and you're left with a real mixed bag of an animated DC film. I don't think that the film is bad, but it's far from great either. It's definitely a big step down from the previous entry in this universe, but far from the worst within this universe as well. If you get the chance to, check it out and judge for yourself.
So that was Batman Bad Blood, and finally, after all this time, I finished talking about this damn movie. Sorry it took so long in between the DC Animated Movie Universe movie reviews. Hopefully the next time it won't take me an eternity to talk about the next entry within this universe. But with all that said, what do you all think of Batman Bad Blood? Post your comments down below. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel for more content, hit that bell for notification, all that other fun stuff. And also, be sure to stay tuned, because next up in the DC AMU movie reviews, we're going to be talking about a movie which I have wanted to talk about for so many years on this channel, but I have never gotten around to it. I didn't want to just jump right into this one because I wanted to get the other entries beforehand. But this next movie is one I've been wanting to talk about for a really long time. And in case you don't know, it is none other than Justice League versus Teen Titans. Finally, I can talk about this movie. I talked about Judas Contract, but I didn't talk about this one. So look forward to next time as we take a look at this film. And with all that said, thank you all so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. Hope everyone has a fantastic day. And as always, take care now. Bye-bye then, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace out.